Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast as we take a look at the draft, which comes your way, obviously, with the first round from Green Bay on Thursday night. And things have gotten, I would say, more interesting in the last 48 to 72 hours. We welcome in Mike Tannenbaum, the former general manager of the Jets, who also was in the front office of the Dolphins and now works for ESPN. He also has the 33rd team. Mr. T, welcome. How are you?
Great, Mike. Great to be with you. Appreciate you having me.
My pleasure, as always. All right. I thought this was kind of ho-hum. Like, I knew what the Jets, unfortunately, I know what they're going to do. I will get to them in a second. The Giants sitting at 3. The quarterback's unexciting. And then this development, Mr. T, in the last couple of days. And I haven't heard this much talk about a guy in the last couple of days of the draft since Urlacher many years ago. Everybody now has one name on the tip of their tongue, Tyler Shough. And that's all you're hearing now. What is the Tyler Shough factor in this draft as we head towards the draft?
He's a really interesting player. He's going to be 26 years old, but he's very talented. He actually started off, Mike, at Oregon. He was the backup to Justin Herbert. He's only played one full season, but he's very talented. He ran a 4.6, but there are some durability issues.
Now, you've heard people talking about, first you started hearing, he's going to be in the second round. Now you're starting to hear him mentioned, and all the guys who do this have all had guys who they know who don't have quarterbacks telling them how good this guy is now. And that's been the buzz all over the place. This starting to look to me, Mr. T, like a guy who somebody's going to trade into the middle or the later parts of the first round for this guy, maybe even goes higher than that. Because when it's quarterbacks, there's no rules. He could go anywhere because anyone can justify taking a quarterback anywhere.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. But if you get him somewhere in the 20s, Mike, you get that fifth year, which is critical because on a 5-year deal, these quarterbacks are getting $45, $50, $55 million a year on an extension. So if he has to sit for a year, you certainly would like to get that fifth year. So I agree with you, Mike. I could see him going a little bit higher than people think.
All right, let's start. I got a bunch of questions. Let's start with the Giants at 3. The Giants want a quarterback on the with the 34th pick. Everybody believes that. Okay. You've heard the name of Shough around the Giants the last couple of days, but you're hearing him about around every team. You've heard him around 10 different teams. Now, Giants look like a lock for Carter. Do you see any way they don't take Carter at 3?
No, I like I think Carter goes 3. I think you're right. They try to get that quarterback at the top of the second round, or again, move up to the bottom of the first round. I think Carter and Travis Hunter are the two best players in the draft. When you think about Carter, he's a more powerful Parsons. I think Micah Parsons is a better athlete, could play more in space, but Abdul Carter paired with Brian Burns makes that Giant pass rush very formidable.
I don't think there's any question. So so Carter 3, as we expect, Giants trying to maneuver with the 34th pick. We'll get back to that. And then we get to the Jets at 7. Well, let me get to two guys first. Genty. Backs don't go that high. We know that. Backs most of the time aren't going to go in the top 20. This is a rare back. This is a top 10 back. How high does Genty go in the draft in your mind?
Mike, the last 3 months, I thought Pete Carroll, like when you think about the Raiders, you think about stability with Pete Carroll, stability with Geno Smith. This guy has 12 runs of 50 yards or more, which is unbelievable. He has 1,700 yards after contact. Just for putting that in context, Mike, 1,700 yards would have led the nation in rushing yards. This guy is really special, and I think if we're Pete Carroll, he's thinking that this guy could be his Marshawn Lynch.
All right, I agree. And I could see him going to the Raiders, and he's a legitimate top 10 pick. He's a legitimate player. I don't think there's any question. The Jets at 7, if Membo is on the board, It sounds like they're going to take him. I can't argue with that. But I have to admit, I was torn last year, and I said take the Penn State lineman rather than the Georgia tight end because Rodgers needed the protection. Okay. And he could make a regular tight end be better than he is. We know that. So I lived with that. I watched how good Bowers was. He was sensational. And I was kicking myself all year. I think Tyler Warren is that. He's a different type than Bowers, but he's going to be a great player. Wait for me the idea of taking a right tackle who could be a 10-year starter or taking a tight end who could be an all-pro.
Yep, you can't go wrong. And I agree with you, Mike. I would have gone with Shough over Bowers, so I agree on that. Look, Membo is a plug-and-play right tackle. He has the right length, size, disposition. Warren, to me, is a great mismatch. If you could get that player, he's a point scorer. I probably would lean a little bit towards Tyler Warren. He is
I do
big.
too, but it sounds like they're not going to. I mean, everything you hear is they're going to go with the tackle, which I can't argue with. But I think this guy at 6'6", 250, he is terrific after the catch. He is good against man. He's good against zone. He's a good blocker. He's a leader. They put him under center. He's a competitor. I think he's the whole package. I think he's going to be an all-pro in the NFL.
Yeah, I see it the same way. I actually think he's a big man with little man's feet. I think he's really quick too. And that's something the Jets haven't had in the last couple of years is a point scorer. So again, I don't think they could go wrong, but Warren to me is very intriguing because I think they're very hard to find.
Now, when you're in the room, Mike, because you've been in the room, what's the argument taking the foundation tackle versus taking the tight end? What's the deciding argument there?
I think two things. One is what's reasonable to get in the second round. And I think this year you could probably get a tackle. These tight ends are just a little bit harder to find. Now, with that said, when we took the Brickashaw Ferguson, we had nothing up front. And my point was we lost two quarterbacks in 7 snaps, Chad Pennington and Jay Fiedler. And at that time, Jason Taylor, Richard Seymour, we couldn't block the players in the AFC East. We had a block. So I felt like without that, we had nothing. I think this is a little bit different because I think this line's not bad for the Jets. It certainly could be better, but that to me would be the tiebreaker.
And Mr. T presided over a draft with Bill Parcells where they drafted 4 guys and 4 guys who all played 10 years in the league. I mean, that was a very special draft and an amazing achievement to have 4 guys play 10 years in the league. You know, that was remarkable.
Yeah, and again, a lot of the same foundational concepts, Mike. You know, bigger, faster guys that were built to last, and then we were lucky. Obviously Chad Pennington fell to us, but it all starts up front. It all starts with guys that prototype. Over time, like it's a big man's league, and over time, those are the guys that have the sustainability.
We're talking with Mike Tannenbaum, former Jet general manager, and he works for ESPN, and he still has the 33rd team. If you've never checked the 33rd team, check it out. It's got a lot of, if you like the NFL, and I know there's a lot of NFL information everywhere, this is really good stuff from guys who have been inside the league, which is the basis of it, guys who have handled all the jobs, from Hall of Fame coaches to executives to Hall of Fame executives like Polian, all the way through. So check out the 33rd team. You can download it. It's very, very useful. It's got a lot of good information. Mike, another thing, insider thing. Giants are at 34. They want a quarterback. They have their eye, let's say, on Tyler Shough. He's still on the board. Now we're in the 20s. Do the math for me. What's reasonable, not crazy, where people are saying the Giants can move from 34 to 8. Or they can't, okay? That's not going to happen. You're not going to bankrupt your draft and next year's. What's reasonable, a reasonable number where you haven't given away the store? You can move from 34 to what number is manageable in the 20s?
Yeah, I think you could probably get to 22, 23, probably give up, a third this year, maybe a 2 next year. I would really try to hold on to your 1. And again, the other value you get is the fifth year. So I think Pittsburgh's an inflection point at 21. Given what Roger said, I can't imagine Pittsburgh's putting their eggs in his basket. So figure a quarterback's going to go there. But right after that, I know the Rams would like to get out. They're in the mid 20s. So to me, realistically, 22 to 26 is that sweet spot.
Okay, 22 to 26. Watch for that, folks, because there's going to be a lot of. If this guy. Now, I think he is so hot, I would not be stunned if somebody goes up into the 15, 18 area and gets him. I would not, because that's what happens with quarterbacks. People jump the gun. They go crazy, and I could see that happening. But let's see what happens. Watch for that in the 22 to 26 area, because that's where they can go back to work with the 34th pick. Now, Sanders, Saints are 9. Let's say he gets by 2. Cleveland takes the wide receiver. Now, let me get one thing about him. Do you believe his talk about playing both ways? Obviously, the coach is going to weigh in on that dramatically. Do you want to see him pick a side? Do you want him to do certain things? Will you utilize him 30% on one side and 100% on the other side? How do you use this player?
Yeah, Travis Hunter from Colorado. I play him at corner. I think he's a shutdown corner. And then in year one, Mike, I give him 15 to 20 plays a game, third down, red zone, maybe really high leverage, high consequential plays, and then sort of like go from there. He averaged 114 snaps per game at Colorado, which is unbelievable, like in this day and age of load management.
Insane.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's how I would approach it and build it from there. But you really may have one of the best receivers and corners in all of the league.
All right, Sanders, does he go 9? And if he doesn't go 9, where does he go?
Yeah, you're hearing that Saints probably aren't going to take him, which is a surprise given, Derek Carr could be out. Derek Carr is 36 next year. So if I'm the Saints, I got Kellen Moore. I would think quarterback. But if he doesn't go there, Mike, I think Shedeur Sanders could be there at 21 for the Steelers. And, the thing I like about Sanders, Mike, that he doesn't get enough credit for is he was sacked in the last 2 years 94 times.
A lot. And it never bothered him.
Yep. So he's tough. He's competitive. I like him. I don't know if he's great, but I think he's rock solid. And to me, if I'm Pittsburgh, he's a day one starter.
Well, listen, I don't think he's a great player, okay? But I think what he is he's been brought up by one of the best players we ever saw in the league, okay, physically. We all know that. Whether you like Deion, didn't like Deion, you're old enough to remember, so am I. Nobody ever threw it. Now, Deion Sanders didn't tackle anybody. We know that. But right. The bottom line is nobody threw to his side of the field because he was going to get to the ball more than the wide receiver was. We know that. He was lethal as a cover guy. Lethal. That he was a great player. He was a difference maker. He was one of the great athletes we've ever seen. He's the fastest player I've ever seen in person on a football field. And this kid's been brought up the right way. He understands what it means to be a pro.
I totally agree. Look, there'll be some bumps in the road. There always are, but he's been around the game his whole life. And again, if you don't have one, Mike, Shedeur Sanders is. I see a lot of Kirk Cousins. I think he's good under play action, good fundamentals, throws with good anticipation. He's very accurate. He just doesn't have like the great arm strength. He's not a high-end athlete, but there's no reason. I agree with what you said, Mike. He should come in and be able to start and play competently right away, and it won't be too big for him.
All right, we're talking about Mike Tannenbaum. Mike, everyone wants to know what the Cowboys are going to do. Jerry Jones is flirting with the fact that he's going to make all these monster trades. He probably won't. We know they need a wide receiver. We know they need a running back. Most likely, there are a lot of second and third round running backs. I know they might like the Carolina kid who people think might go in the top 20. He's a good-looking athlete. There's a lot of wide receivers. Will they take a wide receiver with their first pick? Is that what you expect, or do they take the running back?
Yeah, I think they go receiver because they signed Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, which aren't great players, but the two guys are going to be Tedero McMillan from the University of Arizona and Matthew Golden from Texas. I think either guy would certainly, come in and take some of the pressure off of CD Lamb. I like Golden. Golden ran a 4.29. He plays that way. He had 1 year at Texas, 17 yards a catch. So they need some more firepower to compete in the NFC East. That's what makes a lot of sense to me. Take the receiver at 12.
Mike, how do you now? I know this is a tough question for someone who's held the job and been in the league, but it's a very odd situation to have guys get to keep their jobs after 2 dismal seasons, including one of the worst seasons in Giant history, and then get told you better turn it around next year when they face a division where they're clearly the 4th team and they face the toughest schedule in the league. How are they supposed to turn it around in 1 year? And how much will you allow them, if they're lame ducks, to mortgage your franchise to try and win next year?
Yeah, I think what it all comes down to, Mike, is you got to show progress. You got to put a better product on the field. They need a quarterback. I think you go back a year ago, they passed on Bo Nix. I think McCarthy's going to be really good. The kid out of Michigan that's with Minnesota. I think that was really a big mistake. I love Malik Neighbors. It's impossible not to like him. But, gosh, how they pass on those quarterbacks is really hard to understand. But I think what they got to show is, hey, we're a better team. We're going in the right direction. We hit on Neighbors. Hopefully they hit on Burns. I don't know about Thibodeau. But that's really got to be the narrative coming out of the Giants this year.
And it didn't help when a guy like Sean Payton says, hey, Nix was the best quarterback in the draft. I was holding my breath the whole time. I mean, that doesn't look good for the Giants, especially when the coach is supposed to be a quarterback guy.
Yeah, especially the way Nix played. Totally agree.
He played great. Yeah, he played great, and Sean was right about him. But Sean also coached him up, which helps too because he's good at that. You said the Rams is the most likely trade out because we know what the Rams are about now, and the Rams are going to be really good next year. I think they could have a very big season. I don't think there's any question. Do you see anybody else who is a team you expect or would think has a good chance of trading out in the first round?
Yeah, I think when you get to some of those bottom teams there, like certain Philadelphia, they could certainly trade out. They've sort of signaled that to the marketplace. And then after that, I think Kansas City stays because they need a tackle. Buffalo can move out. They to me would certainly take an extra couple of picks for depth. So those would be the ones that I think would move out.
Is there any chance we get a shock at 2 with Cleveland where they either A, take a quarterback or B, make a trade?
I think it's Kirk Cousins to Cleveland. I don't know when it happens, but you go back to all the success that Kirk Cousins had in Minnesota with Kevin Stefanski, who was I didn't understand
there. I didn't understand Kirk Cousins last year. He's on a really good offensive team, and it almost looked like he was shell-shocked. I didn't understand what was going on. He looked like there was something wrong with him.
Yeah. And sometimes, Mike, it takes another year coming off of a big injury. But if I'm Cleveland, a little bit of a win now, like the way you described the Giants, if I'm Stefanski, I try to get one good year out of Kirk Cousins. Because obviously Deshaun Watson's out again this year. They're in a tough spot. I think my sense of it is Cousins another year off the injury is their best option.
What do you think about Glenn and the way he's going to go about this with the Jets?
I really like it. No nonsense. Kind of reminds you, Mike, of Bill Parcells. No gray area. Tell it like it is. I think players will respect that and that approach. I think they're going to be a team that's tough. I think they're going to be a lot like Detroit, Mike. They're going to take a couple of years to get all the pieces in place. But I think you're going to watch them. The penalties will be down. The turnovers will be down. And you're like, this is a tough, hard-nosed, well-coached team.
There's been a lot of rumors about them trading Hall in this draft and going with the kid from Wisconsin at running back. You think that's possible or just a rumor?
Yeah, I think it's more of a rumor. Look, you never know. But to me, like, it's year one. Let's see what we got and go from there. They got great depth at the running back position. So we'll see how it goes. But there are some good pieces there. And if I would think they would want to see how they play in year one before they figure out, who they want to move on from.
I always got a couple players that I like. I love Warren. I think he's an absolute first team All Pro. I think he's going to be a great player in the NFL. I don't think there's any question about it. I think, barring injury, I think he's going to be a great player. I think he's going to be the standard for a long time. I think he's that good. I love this guy Scatterboo. I love him. If you can get him on the third round, he might be a little McCaffrey. That guy is a football player. I mean, I love that guy. I was so impressed with him when I saw him last year a couple of times. I love. I don't know where he's going in this draft, but I love that little guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. He breaks a lot of tackles. He was their entire offense. He can catch the ball. He's a good pass protector. There's so many good backs, but Scatterboo is. I agree. I like him a lot. I think he goes probably bottom of the second, third round.
So, how many quarterbacks go on the first round tomorrow, Mike? On
I got
Thursday, how many
yeah,
how many quarterbacks go on the first round?
I got four. So that would be Ward, Shedeur, Jackson Dart, and then Shough from Louisville. Those are the four.
So you think Shough goes on? Do you think you're going to have to move up to get Shough? He's going to go in the first round.
I believe so, yeah. And again, you get the extra year. The two concerns teams have on him is his age. He'll be 26 this year, and injuries. He's only played one full season.
Well, I can make good excuses for, or at least good things out of those two things. Number one, coming in the league with a lot of experience at 26, served Knicks very well, number one. And I think it's not a bad thing. Number two, this kid fought back through a lot of adversity. He's been told a couple of times to quit football, and he's come back and he's kept playing, and he definitely loves to play. I think he's a football player. I mean, I don't know if he'll stay healthy. We never know that. The only thing I've heard about him is he holds the ball too long, but you know what? They can fix that.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I agree. And he plays 4-6. Like, that's all true, Mike. It's just in an ideal world, you know how the NFL is. If you paint by the numbers, you want him to be 22 years old, good body of work at the same place. And those are harder and harder to find nowadays. So he's a very intriguing prospect that someone's going to take in the first round.
Is Cam Ward a day one starter, or is he a bit of a project?
I like him a lot. I think he's a day one starter. He got better, started at Incarnate Word, went to Washington State. He is explosive. I think he's really calm in the pocket. He got better from Incarnate Word to Washington State, Mike. He has a really good arm. I think he's going to be a top 10 player one day because he's way more explosive than people realize.
Mike, have we reached the point in the league now where Kansas City has to do major rebuilding after this cycle, or can they just slap a couple of new faces on the offensive line and go about their business and still be who they are, or is it now time to do a little major reconstruction?
No, I think you got older coach, quarterback in the prime. Look, their offensive line, that Super Bowl, Mike, was an infomercial about one side of the ball dominating the other. And
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes looked mortal. And you got to fix the line. But if you fix the line, you got an all-time great coach, an all-time great quarterback. And I think you keep that window open as much as you can. Even if you have to take it from another position, get one or two more offensive linemen.
Hey, it's the 2 years they went in with suspect offensive lines. That's the two Super Bowls they lost. That's
That's
it.
right.
I mean, that's it. And last year, I thought they were going to get killed by the Eagles in that Super Bowl. And some of those guys made a lot of money on the Eagles because of it. They deserved it. But boy, that was a dominant performance. But the tight end's getting old. You got a couple other guys. You got to pay certain guys. You wonder, when does it break? They've been on top for so long.
Yeah, but the quarterback has another 3 to 5 years at high level play. So when they got him, they got a chance.
All right, listen, Mr. T, thanks for a couple of minutes. Enjoy. Have fun with the draft. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks very much, Mike. All right, Mike Tannenbaum, ESPN, 33rd team. So listen, folks, this has been overwhelming in the last couple of days. It reminded me of what went on before the draft with Urlacher. Nobody knew about Urlacher. And then all of a sudden he came out at the combine on a hot list and he was moving up. And then all of a sudden, all you heard the first couple of days before the draft was Urlacher. I think he went 9 to the Bears, if I remember right. Okay. I think it was 9. All right. All you heard was these quarterbacks were no good. Giants like this guy. Giants are going to take, the Alabama quarterback. They like the Ole Miss quarterback. They like this. Hey, the bottom line is they all now like the Louisville quarterback. The Louisville quarterback has become the hot property in this draft. Now, I know there are going to be teams competing to get up into the 20s. And this is not, if you see the guys with their last minute notes on the draft, the guys who are the NFL insiders, every one of them has notes on this guy now because I know what's going on because I talked to a couple of coaches who said the same thing to me. Hey, I love that Louisville kid. I'm not into the quarterbacks this year, but I love that Louisville kid. And that's what you're hearing everywhere. Okay. So this kid has now moved into the first round. I don't think there's any question. And I don't know this. If the Giants are in the market to get him, and I think they have competition for that, and I think they would be, but I think this kid might stun everybody and get taken where the Giants can't get. Mike told you with the math, the Giants can get to 22, 26. Even with that, remember, you're going to give up this year's 3 and next year's 2. That's a lot to give up. The Giants aren't giving up with a team that's terrible. With lame duck general manager and coach, they are not giving up their number 1 pick next year because it might be a top 5 pick. They are not giving that away. If they do, they'll look like idiots. So they're not doing that, okay? They're not giving up their whole draft to get up for this kid, and they're not taking him at 3 because they got a guy who could be a 10-time All-Pro, a 10-time Pro Bowler at 3. Carter's can't miss. I think he's the best player in the draft. I know everyone gets all big on Hunter, but here's the thing. Pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. If I can get a dominant pass rusher, I'm taking him. I don't care. They're taking Carter at 3. Now, can they get back up to 22, 26? Yes. Problem is, they can get up there. Maybe as high as 22. But problem is, I think with the buzz I'm hearing now, I don't think anybody's taking this kid in the top. First of all, there's only 2 teams in the top 10 looking for a quarterback, other than the Giants. Brown's at 2, and I don't think he's going at 2. And then New Orleans at 9. Would I rule out that he goes 9 to New Orleans? I would not. I would not. I don't know how New Orleans feels about him. I don't know where they are. I would not rule that out. I also wouldn't rule out somebody going into the 15 to 18 area and grabbing this guy. All right. Now, Mr. T gave you the downside. He's 26 years old. He sat behind Herbert for 2 years at Oregon. All right. Herbert's a top quarterback. I know we had a bad playoff game. Okay. Now, this kid went to Texas Tech. He went to Louisville. He's had injuries. He's had bad injuries. He's 26 years old. A little old. Okay, we know that. But Nick's played 1,000 games in college, and it served him very well. He came in ready to play. And he also had Sean, which is a big positive because Sean's a great quarterback coach. And he's a terrific play caller. So that helped a lot. But Sean thought Nick was the best quarterback in the draft last year. Who does Sean think is the best quarterback in this draft? Duh. And he's not alone. So the bottom line is you're hearing the buzz on this guy like crazy. Okay? Usually with quarterbacks, somebody jumps the gun. So I wouldn't be surprised you're sitting there and this kid goes 15. Would I be stunned if he went 9? No. But I'm thinking 9 might be a little rarefied. But around 15, 18, somebody might be thinking, hey, I'm getting back in and getting this guy. It's possible. We'll see how that unfolds. But he's become the worst kept secret in the world in the last 48 hours. I mean, every notes I read the last couple of days on NFL Insights, everybody mentions this player. The lowest I saw anybody have him now, I mean, 34 was about the lowest I saw him get picked now. He's moved up everywhere because everyone's talking about him. So now he's no longer a month ago he was a third rounder, a fourth rounder, a project, but now you don't see him lower than 34, 35, and you see him in the first round. And that's what happens with players, but that's what happens with quarterbacks especially. So don't be surprised if this kid goes off the board before the Giants, but watch, this is going to be interesting. Who's going to get up and get this kid? If he clears Pittsburgh at 20, what's Pittsburgh at 21, I think? If he clears Pittsburgh, and I don't think Pittsburgh's taking him. So if he clears the Pittsburgh team, though, I think the Rams at 22 are obviously in business to trade. That could be a spot somebody gets in and gets him. Mr. T thought the Giants could get somewhere between 22 and 26 with the 34th pick and live with that. Maybe it costs them this year's 3, next year's 2 to make that move from 34 to 22. It's expensive to move up. If you want, there is a mathematical chart which will give you the points that it costs. But it's very expensive to move into the first round. It costs you a lot of picks. It does. It's not cheap. So you have to make those moves carefully. If you Cowboy fans, Jerry's talking about trading veterans. I don't know if he's going to do that. Now, some people thought they might take the Carolina running back that high. Genti is not going to be on the board when the Cowboys pick. He's not going to be there. Then the question is, which wide receiver do they take? So there's a very good chance they'll take a wide receiver on the first round, then come back. There are a lot of running backs in the second, third, and fourth round. I've heard people tell me there's about 15 draftable running backs between late 1 and the fourth round. About 15 guys who fill the bill. So there's a lot of running backs out there. I'm in love with the Penn State tight end. If I'm the Jets, I know, okay, I'm hoping, I don't think it can happen. I'm hoping Membo goes off the board before the Jets pick. Now, I saw one mock, I don't remember which one it was because I looked through all of them in the last couple of days. One had him going fourth. I don't think it's happening because I think it's Ward. This is without something crazy happening. This is Ward, then Turner. Then Hunter, then Carter, then Campbell goes. The LSU tackle goes to New England. Then I know some people think that Jacksonville might surprise and take an offensive player. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. Okay, so I think it's going to be Ward, Hunter, Carter, Campbell, Graham, the Michigan defensive tackle, who's the real deal. He's a very good player. I've heard a couple people say that Jacksonville might take Genti. I don't think they will. I know he's an offensive coach. Liam, I don't think he will do that. Genti goes to the Raiders. I can see Pete doing that. Genti's going to go top 10. Then the Jets are probably going to take the right tackle from Missouri, Membu. I can't knock the pick. He's a walk-in starter at right tackle. So you got the Penn State kid at left tackle and him at right tackle. You got bookend tackles. I understand that. But this is a tight end who's 6'6", 250, who's a blocker, who's a competitor, who would get under center on plays, who was terrific against both man and zone, who had 15 catches in a game, who had over 450 yards after the catch at 6'6", 250. He runs. He hits. He competes. He's tough. He's a leader. He's the whole package. I love that player. If Warren goes past the Jets, I don't know if he goes to the Bears at 10. If the Colts get him at 14, and he won't get past the Colts at 14, if they get Warren at 14, they're going to throw a party. That guy, I think, is top 3 players in the draft. By my looking down the road and say to me, give me the guys who are going to be just stars. I think Carter's going to be a star. I'm not sure Hunter's going to be a star. I mean, I know he's very talented, but you're asking him to do a lot. So I think that's a lot to undertake. Listen, when you get these can't miss offensive tackles, they're the real deal. So if you're talking about Campbell or the Michigan defensive tackle Graham, or even Membo, they're legitimate players. I'm not knocking any of them. But when you got a tight end who's 6'6", 250, so he's good at the point of attack, and he can catch, and he can run the seam, and he can run after the catch, and he's got great hands, and he's a leader, and he's a fiery competitor. Hey, that's the whole deal. This kid was great in college. I love him. And I knew they had to take the tackle last year because they needed him. But boy, watching that kid play for the Raiders last year, I was like kicking myself because I loved him. I loved him. And he's a little different type of tight end. He's more of a quasi wide receiver tight end. This is more of a brutish tight end, but also a guy who can do everything. He can play against man. He can play against someone. He can get down the field. He can break big plays. This guy, he's going to be a big-time player. I'd love to see them take him. So you got some intrigue here. Giants at 3. It's Carter. It should be Carter. Do they trade Thibodeau? Maybe he goes to the Lions. They need a pass rusher. I'm sure the Lions would love to get Parsons from Dallas, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the Giants take Carter, and then they come back and they go shopping for the Louisville quarterback, but they're not alone. And the price keeps going up and up and up and up. We'll see you later.